And I just have to give warning sa fellows, aspiring na kababayan natin na gustong mag-student dito na, hear it firsthand from appropriate professionals, no. It's good na you can ask feedback from other people or sa current visa holders dito or yung mga other people na nag-umpisa na ng journey nila. Yeah, it's okay to ask them about their experience, about their opinion. Pero every person's circumstances is different. So don't take it at heart na kung narinig mo sa iba mong kababayan na either nasa Australia na o na student visa, you take it by heart and think na tama talaga lahat yun at applicable sa'yo. What is applicable to one person might not necessarily be applicable sa'yo.
Hello everyone! It's another episode po ng Explain Why. Welcome po sa ating show sa gabing ito. So, kahapon diniscuss po natin yung tungkol sa PhilHealth hacking sa Pinas. So, nakausap natin isa sa mga cyber expert tungkol sa mga pangyayari do sa PhilHealth hacking. But sa ngayong episode po natin ngayon ay pag-uusapan naman natin is yung ano ba yung bagong mga patakaran sa student visa sa other aside from yung mga bagong sinasabing law. So para yung because nga recently mayroong mga fraud dun sa student visa system at also nakipagpulong din yung Australian government sa Philippines about yung work holiday visa. So pag-uusapan din natin yan. Ang guest po natin ngayon sa gabing ito sa Explain Why ay isa sa mga immigration expert na tutulong sa atin himay-himayin ang mga pangyayari nga sa Australian immigration system. Ang guest natin si Herbert Legaspi. Siya po ang director ng H&L Migration. So, graduate po siya ng graduate certificate in Australian Migration Law at Practice from Victoria University. Ini-started niya po yung kanyang migration business in 2016 to provide services to the Filipino community and wider migrant community by providing like tailored immigration advice and complete program to help client achieve their Australian dream. So, yan po si Mr. Herbert Legaspi ang ating guest for today. Let me put that on. Give me 1 second. Oh. Alright, tingnan natin kung may problema ba yung natin. Okay, let me hello everyone. Let me check. Okay. Please welcome Herbert Legaspi ng HLM Migration. Hello, kamusta po? Magandang gabi.
Yes, good evening, Nico, and good evening sa viewers mo.
Okay. So, initially, pag-usapan natin yung mga na nagkaroon ng mga pagbabago, yung mga loophole dito sa student visa system that was allowing some international students to switch from different time of ng study, no? So mukhang may nakita sila tungkol dito. So pakipaliwanag nga sa atin yung current student visa system before at bakit nila nakita itong mga fraud sa previous student visa na ngayon ay inaayos nila. I think they budgeted around 50 million to investigate about this fraud in the system.
Yeah, that's right. Well, basically, I mean, yung student visa dito sa Australia is a billion-dollar industry. And a lot of the main players dito ay yung mga top universities Australia-wide. So they're the ones who can lobby to the government, work with the government, to create policies that will entice international students para mag-aral sa kanila. Ngayon, those are the higher education players. So, yun yung mga top universities natin na if you wanna take up bachelor's degree, master's degree, anything up to PhD. Ngayon, aside from the higher education players, the main players talaga the education industry, marami tayong vocational education providers. Ito yung mga schools na nag-offer ng certificates, 3, certificate 4, up to diploma and advanced diploma. Yung nakita ng immigration recently, since nag-close kasi yung borders during the pandemic, a lot of students went back to their own countries. The education sector or yung international education sector really felt yung financial pain. And since nag-open ang borders, ang priority really is to bring those students back to build up yung industry ulit. Unfortunately, what's happening is a lot of those students yata is going towards vocational education rather than the targeted higher education sectors. And you have to remember na itong mga higher education sectors, yung mga universities, they're the one who lobbied to the government to start with para maging relax ang rules once Australia opened their borders for international students. Ang nangyayari is students will apply initially for bachelor's or master's degree to these top players na mga universities. And then once they arrive in Australia, once na ma-receive na nila yung visa grant letter nila, they will apply again for another visa and they will switch from a master's applying for a vocational education. Sobrang dami yata recently ng shift na to, kaya naging worried yung government, and mostly probably dahil they're being told by the top universities na ang number of students nila aren't still before pandemic levels, and a lot of people are really switching from masters and PhD, going and taking diploma and certificate. And to give people a bit of perspective, nung recent na nag-open ang Australia for students, sobrang relax ng rules. Probably because immigration is so inundated with backlogs, na such a way na if you apply for a visa in Australia, lots of them gets automatic grant. Just because there's not enough case officer to process the papers, and at that time they made the policy to auto grant some applications, and a lot of people knew about this system or policy that the immigration is currently doing. And as you may be aware, certain parts of our communities or particular people, they try to abuse it. Because of that sudden surge sa vocational education, there's a lot of new players din na suddenly pop up na vocational schools. And when immigration tend to review, they're just basically being called like ghost schools. Basically, what it means is a company does everything, registers the company, gets the appropriate licenses or registration or whatever to become a school, to become a vocational education provider, and they get accreditation from immigration para makapag-enroll sila ng international students. Pero what ends up really happening on site in the floor is wala talaga silang students na nag-aaral sa venues nila. They would basically just hire business premises and say na ito yung business address ng school, this is where the schools will study. Pero if you go to that particular address, it's an empty space. And because of that, na legal lahat ng registration, meron silang accreditation from immigration, a lot of these schools pop up, Ngayon, they try to entice students from their home countries or whatever target market that they're operating. So they sell it off para makapunta sa Australia on the premise na magtatrabaho naman talaga, because wala talagang klase to start with and they weren't being reported to immigration because one of the immigration supposed to be security setting nila is pag hindi pumapasok si student, the school should report those students to immigration. Pero hindi siya nangyayari because to start with, those school are accomplice sila sa basically sa scam na nangyayari, no. So they don't report those students sa immigration, and I would think that they're recruiting people from overseas to basically work in Australia on a premise na kunwari student visa ka. And you have to remember when you nag-open Australia sa student visa, they waived yung work limitations. So meaning, any students can work their hearts out, no? Kung kaya mo magtrabaho 40 hours, 60 hours a week, you're free to do so. Pero meron siyang fine print, no? You can work for how many hours you want, pero ang top priority pa rin is mag-aral. So hindi ka pwedeng umabsent, hindi ka pwedeng, bumagsak sa most of your courses. You still have to meet yung criteria ng school and yung standards ng school. Pero yun nga, ganun yung nangyayari at the time, no? So there's rampant sort of abuse of that system. A part of that, dahil ang daming surge ng student visa holders, some Australians also tend to make that as opportunity to exploit student visa holders by not paying them properly. And unfortunately, some other student visa holders, pagdating dito, they're being used sa mga illegal prostitution or something like that. And that's one of the main concerns din ng immigration, that they're being used on that sort of a trade. Yun nga rin, because hindi naman talaga ang incentive nila or plan nila, why they applied for student visa is to study in Australia. Ang main goal talaga for most of those people is to stay and work in Australia.
So, ano yung epekto nito kasi so mostly bakit ba instead ang Australia have a lot of different visa, di ba? May 190, merong hindi naman student. Nagtataka lang ako if you are skilled sa bansang galing sa iyo, like the Philippines, you're skilled. Bakit sa tingin mo instead of using their skill to do assessment to get the 190 independent visa, bakit pupunta sila ng student, masteral or bachelor? If they already have skilled sa kanilang or meron na silang skill talaga.
Yeah, that's a good point, Miko. I think what the problem is misinformation or no information at all. And there's a aggressive sort of recruitment coming from education agents. Now, people should also distinguish na different ang education agent, different ang migration agent, no, like myself. So education agents, ang purpose lang niya is to assist the applicant na makapasok sa school na gusto niyang puntahan. So they can sort out kung anong course, anong school, everything about the qualification, no. Pero when it comes to the visa component, it should be migration agents that they should be dealing with. Now, like myself, no, in my practice, in my company, what I normally do is I ask for a resume of the prospective applicant. So, because wala silang aware sa sa Australia, hindi nila alam yung mga visa options. All they know is they want to come to Australia. So on my end, syempre, I'll review their papers, yung resume, and present them with the best possible solution. Now, the best possible solution should be the cheapest and the quickest. Those are the two main things na I look at. No, it's not all the time that those two categories can be applicable sa particular na prospective applicant. It can be one or the other. No, best scenario is you can have the best in those two categories. Now, kung nakita ko na eligible si client sa skilled, that would be the cheapest way. Because you already have the skills, you already have the work experience, you have the qualifications. Ngayon, kung hindi eligible si client to apply for a skilled visa, that's when the student visa pathway comes in. I normally tell clients or prospective clients na, at the moment, based on your background, hindi ka qualified sa skilled visa for permanent residency. Pero, your profile has a good chance to apply for a student visa. And what we need to do is study a qualification in Australia that will allow you to qualify for permanent residency or skilled visa in the future. Now, meron lang mga disclaimer, no. Una, hindi lahat ng qualification can lead to PR. So it doesn't mean na bachelor ang kinuha mo or master's ang kinuha mo, that will already lead to PR. So there are only select qualifications that has a PR pathway. So they can range from certificate 3, certificate 4 diploma, all the way to bachelor. No, master's degree, I only recommend that if you wanted na extra points, or kung hindi sufficient yung bachelor degree mo from the Philippines to qualify for skilled migration. This is because yung qualification natin sa Philippines are being assessed based on Australian equivalent. So there are certain school sa Philippines na can be classified as Section 2. So Section 2 means any bachelor qualification na na-accomplish mo, equivalent lang sa diploma. Ngayon, meron naman mga school sa Philippines na classified as Section 1, meaning kung bachelor degree ang tinapos mo sa Philippines, equivalent siya sa bachelor degree sa Australia.
So, salamat sa paliwanag, Herbert. So, talagang kasi going to student visa, sabi mo, it's akala ng iba is that pag student visa ka, matapos ka, you get the pathways to residency. Yun yung I think yun yung mga isip ng ibang mga tao about sa student visa.
That's correct.
So,
and very, very unfortunate, no, dahil yun nga, I mean, I've also heard a couple of members in our community na they're about to finish their course, and then that's when they try to engage a migration agent saying na, sir, I'll be finishing my course this December, ano yung next step natin? And then when I check their papers, then that's only to find out na, wala siyang PR pathway, no? So they either have to start from scratch again or, go back home. So start from student visa again, study another qualification that has a possibility for PR. And this is also a thing that I always tell them, no, especially sa mga aspiring students or student visa applicants, na before you enroll to a school or engage or sign up to an education agent, make sure na you talk with a migration agent, and you need to be sort of a firm or malinaw na sa mata mo kung ano talaga yung gusto mong mangyari. And pero on the premise now, based on my experience and everything, at least siguro 90 or even more than 90% of student visa or either holders or applicants within our community, Filipino community, ang plan talaga is to stay in Australia permanently. Very seldom yung mga mag-aaralan dito and then ang plano talaga is uuwi sa Philippines or to another third country and doon mag-establish. Selective few lang siguro yun. No? Karamihan pa rin ng mga kababayan natin wants to study in Australia on the premise na they can stay here and live here permanently. So, yun lang, no. Because I mean, it's just sort of hindi nakaset up yung priorities nila na they're willing to spend $30,000 sa tuition fee sa school and yet nangihinayang na gumastos for consultation fee sa migration agent, no, na it can cost between $100 or $300 depende kung kaninong migration agent kayo makikipag-usap. And it's also best na you talk directly sa isang registered migration agent like myself. Marami naman sa community natin na registered migration agents Australia-wide na you can talk to. And you can sort of tell them, ito yung plano ko, ito yung currently ginagawa ko ngayon, makakarating ba ako sa plano ko based on this program. So, yung migration agent, ang talagang makakapag, registered migration agent, ang talagang makakapagsabi kung ano yung possible outcome sa proposed mo or sa gusto mong mangyari, no? So yun, and I just have to give warning sa fellows aspiring na kababayan natin na gustong mag-student dito na hear it firsthand from appropriate professionals, no. It's good na you can ask feedback from other people or sa current visa holders dito or yung mga other people na nag-umpisa na ng journey nila. Yeah, it's okay to ask them about their experience, about their opinion. Pero every person's circumstances is different. So don't take it at heart na kung narinig mo sa iba mong kababayan na either nasa Australia na o na student visa, you take it by heart and think na tama talaga lahat yun at applicable sa'yo. What is applicable to one person might not necessarily be applicable sa'yo. So I can give you a good example on that. Halimbawa, si student visa holder, graduate ng engineer sa Philippines and PRC license siya. Ngayon, very popular ngayon yung sa civil drafting na course na diploma level. So cheap lang siya, 2-year study, and by end of that, you can also qualify for PR. So whether yun ang kunin niya or another different course, he may also choose to take a course na let's say hypothetical leadership, leadership na course. So that course alone, wala siyang PR pathway, pero because engineer na siya from the Philippines, and and he chose to study that still on the premise na gusto lang niya makapunta sa Australia a lot quicker. I mean, by all means, that's fine. Para lang, pero dahil nag-engage siya sa migration agent, he knows na kahit walang PR pathway yung leadership or whatever management course na kinukuha niya, qualified na siya to become a PR just by having his qualifications back home. No. And the only reason kung bakit siya nag-aral sa Australia is gusto lang niya makasama agad yung family niya dahil siya lang yung naiwan sa Pilipinas. Siya lang yung remaining child na naiwan dahil overage na siya nung na na-qualify for PR yung kanyang parents and hindi siya nakasama. At gusto niya makasama. So, that's one sample ng circumstance na people might think, ay, kilala ko si Juan. Nag-aral lang siya ng leadership a few years back. Ngayon, PR na. So, they might think na, oy, pwede pala yun. So, that's not understanding the whole details. We're just basically picking one information and thinking, ay, leadership siya, naging PR siya. Ibig sabihin, pag nag-aral ng leadership, magiging PR din ako. that's not always the case. You need to know the details. So the only person qualified to give you migration advice is yung registered migration agents, no? So to save money and most especially to save time, it's better to go directly sa mga registered migration agents.
Thank you for that. Kasi ang daming ano ibig sabihin nun? Sa mga pinamaraming may alam.
That's right. That's right. I mean kasi siguro dahil rin sa personality ng mga Pilipino na you wanna help out your fellow kababayan without really understanding na it's a double-edged sword, no? Na although some people genuine talaga yung na gusto mong makatulong, not realizing na you're doing that person more harm than help, no? Dahil is not getting proper advice and stuff, no? Similar din sa health natin, no? Kung meron ka nararamdaman masama, I mean, hindi ka pupunta doon sa sa matanda sa baryo to ask help sa experience ano ba nangyari dito. I mean, you go to the professionals, no? And you have to go to the right professional. So meaning kung may problema ka sa mata, I mean, hindi ka pupunta sa sa different specialist. Pupunta ka talaga sa specialist sa mata kasi other doctors hindi sila specialist sa mata. They can provide generic something advice pero i-refer ka pa rin sa specialist because that's out of their scope. So similar din sa situation, no? Ang plano mo talaga maging PR sa Australia, hindi lang pag-aaral yung talagang primary goal mo. So you should be engaging a migration agent to make sure na you've covered all aspects, no?
So sa masalita, ibig sabihin short is dapat bago ka pumunta sa pathway na ito, kailangan mong mag-research ka talaga kung ito ba talaga yung pathway mo. Kasi alam mo, marami rin ako nakikita sa mga ating mga Filipino community sa mga group as well na nahihirapan sila, akala nila napakadali ang pagiging student kasi you sacrifice everything outside mo. Mula sa Pinas, dito wala kang katulong. Kung sa Pinas meron kang katulong, meron kang mga yaya or anything, pagdating dito solo ka and then hindi mo, ang dami mong problema rin kasi mag-iisip ka ng mga tirahan mo, sino yung mga kasama mo. So it's not easy. So kailangan mag-research. Sabi mo nga, kailangan mag-research ka bago ka sumalta dito.
That's right. Tama ka doon, no? Actually, as part of my procedure, no, hindi lahat ng student na applicants na lumalapit sa akin is tinatanggap ko, no. First, pag may lumapit sa akin gusto mag-aral sa Australia, una ko lagi sinasabi is committed ka ba, no? Because malaking adjustment no. Malaking adjustment pagdating mo sa Australia, madaming requirements pag-apply ng visa application. So it's not an easy sort of program to do. Yeah, there's lots of research that the student has to do even before lodging the application. Now, ito yung medyo sad that's been happening even blatantly na nangyayari na ngayon sa community natin, na even sa Facebook nagpo-post sila na they're proud na posting these kinds of services. And even some students ay proud to say na they've sort of asked those services. What I mean is yung mga education they're not really registered education agents, just people na recruiting Filipinos to study in Australia, na sila mismo yung gumagawa ng GTE ng student, sila mismo yung gumagawa ng paperworks, and some even provides fraudulent papers para lang mailusot si student sa visa. And some of them might not even charge fees for their services. And I mean, because they receive commissions from the school. So, which is not a bad thing, no? Which is not bad practice, pero you have to think na you also have to check sa company. I mean, sino yung priority nila? Ikaw pa rin ba yung priority nila as an applicant? Or ang priority nila yung commission sa school? Because if ang priority nila is yung commission pa rin sa school, meaning, they'll do anything para maipasa ka lang sa visa. And some of them, nagpo-provide ng fake papers. Sila mismo yung gumagawa ng GT statement ng student. Basically, si student, applicant, ang gagawin lang, magbabayad lang ng pera or something, or magpo-provide lang ng papers. Bahala na si education agent lahat. No? Which is, pag nakalusot si visa, na-approve si visa, pagdating ni student sa school, sa Australia, and nag-report sa school, dumating na yung mga tuition fees, dumating na yung mga bills and everything, bigla siyang, magreklamo na, ay, sobrang hirap pala dito sa Australia. Hindi ko alam na ganito pala yung gastos dito. Hindi ko alam na ganito pala kahirap mag-work ito. Hindi ko alam na ganito lang pala yung kikitain ko o something, madaming laging, parang na-caught siya off guard. And that's because na, most of these people, not all, pero a lot of them, they didn't do their own GT statement. They didn't do due diligence to research what is it like, sa course, paano yung payment terms, paano yung, living dito, magkano yung rental fee, magkano yung groceries, how much are these, so that they can figure out how much money they need to bring with them, or as a reserve, how much money do they need to have bago sila mag-travel dito. So parang bahala na yung natin, yung parang sa culture din natin na basta makarating ako, bahala na bukas, kung ano man ang mangyari. And fortunately, sa Australia, it's not like the Philippines na kung walang-wala ka, you always have family members to back you up. Pagdating sa Australia, you're on your own. So if you don't have cash flow coming in, or you don't have enough money reserve, that's where a lot of our kababayans are struggling, na naubusan sila ng cash and everything, and they're just having emotional and breakdowns dahil wala rin silang support group na yung family nasa Pilipinas lahat, and yung pressure sa mga Pilipino na yung iba pinangutang pa ng magulang para makapag-aral dito, and they didn't do their due diligence na mag-research. So when they arrive here, they're most of them are caught off guard na. Nahihirapan tuloy sila, which is a reality that's been happening now, and they think na pati yung iba na nakalusot ng visa application na gumamit ng GTE writers, or nag-provide of fraudulent paperworks either coming from employers or from school, thinking na, uy, nakalusot ako, makakalusot ka rin. Ginamit ko tong GTE writer na to, ginamit ko tong company na to, and they provided everything. They work out everything para ma-lusot yung visa ko. And naka-approve nga, nakarating nga ng Australia. So, tuloy-tuloy lang yung yung business or yung modus na yun. And ang nagiging epekto nun, tuloy, is yun nga, pagdating ng students sa Australia, naiipit sila, staff, And yung mga epekto naman nito, doon sa mga kababayan natin plano palang mag-apply ng visa, sooner or later, immigration will catch up kung ano yung nangyayari sa sa mga applications, or sa mga current visa nasa Australia. So chine-check nila statistics kung sino yung mga students na approve na dito na sa Australia, mga umuuwi or nagbi-breach ng visa condition, or anong klaseng breach ng visa condition, hindi pumapasok sa school or nag-work na sobra-sobra, or nag-under the table na cash on hand na payment, which is also hindi naman illegal ang cash on hand na bayad as long as it's been declared to ATO. Pero nangyayari kasi talaga, kaya gustong cash on hand para undeclared income. So ngayon, nag-catch up na yung immigration, nalaman na nila yung about sa mga students talaga na ang main driving criteria nila to come to Australia is not to study, but to work. So naghihigpit na tuloy sila, naghihigpit na sila sa mga systems na to. There was a time, several months back na all applications coming from 2 states in a certain country are plainly rejected. No, hindi na sila tumatanggap ng applications coming from those 2 states only because sobrang rampant ng pandaraya. So kahit yung mga genuine students coming from those areas are affected. No, hindi na tuloy sila makapag-apply ng visa nila because sobrang rampant ng karamihan na nandalaya. Ngayon, recently, there's been lots of requests for Section 56 na request for further information coming from Filipino applicants na ang hinahanap na ngayon is financial evidence of financial capacity at saka yung pinapa-verify na nila yung mga qualification na papers. So you'll have to ask na bakit all of a sudden biglang i-request sa community natin tong mga ganitong requirements where in the past hindi naman siya kailangan, hindi siya hinahanap. Bakit ngayon nagiging so frequent yung ganitong request? And yeah, you'll just have to consider na immigration tries to catch up with the latest trend, kung ano man yung nangyayari na mga kababalagan na diskarte ng mga applicants, they try to catch up. So ibig sabihin, naging awareness sa immigration na maraming Pilipino na dinadaya yung papeles sa school. And maraming Pilipino na nag-a-apply ng student visa hindi para mag-aral kundi para lang magtrabaho. And you can attest to here na a lot of student visa holders in Australia even posting in social media na I have to send money back home to support my family, all those sort of stuff. I mean, you have obligations. Yeah, I mean, understand that na may obligations kind of everything. Pero it would be really, really hard for a student visa holder given the limited work rights to support families back home. I would think na talagang, it's gonna be really difficult because bayad sa tuition fees, bayad sa living expenses nila dito, I mean, that should be basically parang break even lang in most cases. Pero what's been happening right now is in most situations na nakikita ko sa social media, they're even struggling to make ends meet to comply with their obligations in Australia, yung mga bills sa Australia, at the same time pati yung payments sa school. So what more kung meron ka pang family back home na you're supporting. So ibig sabihin, most likely, ang priority mo talaga is to work kasi you have family to support and everything. So yun, naging mahigpit si immigration na you need to provide financial capacity na evidence. So ngayon, financial evidence, there are several ways to to showcase that. Either si parents mo or yung partner mo is may income, pwedeng business or employment na medyo malaki na pasok doon sa criteria ng immigration. Alternatively, kung meron kayong cash, credit card na may allowed credit na capacity pa sa card mo, plus any cash sort of sa deposit sa bank, you can also use that as a financial evidence. At you can also see na bakit yung immigration, minsan hinahanap yung 3 months bank statement. Under the legislation, wala siya. Hindi siya requirement. So, ibig sabihin, under the law, kailangan mo lang patunayan sa immigration na mayroon kang kakayanahang supportahan yung financial mo, no? Pero hindi na kailangan yung 3 months, 6 months, o 1 year na bank statement. Pero sa policy, I mean, hinahanapan ng case officer. Bakit ganun? Kasi nga nagiging rampant yung pandaraya. So they wanna check kung talaga bang capable si student. Kasi karamihan nga sa atin nahihiramin lang o pang show money lang. After 1 month o 2 weeks or something, ibabalik na yung pera. So in reality, wala pa rin pera si student. Pagdating ng Australia, walang pera, hindi alam na ganito pala yung cost of living dito, hindi niya na-realize na ganito pala kamahal o ganito pala yung rental weekly rates ng shared accommodation or mismong bahay. Hindi niya alam na pag nag-aral pala yung anak niya dito, ganito kalaki yung tuition fee kasi kasama niya yung buong family niya pagdating dito. And so many other things, no, na dahil nagpagawa ng GTE sa iba. So because wala siyang financial capacity na na-entice na either being exploited by yun nga yung mga just sa mga industries na pangit, no, or being exploited by legitimate companies knowing na students sila and they will do everything just to make ends meet, na kahit underpaid or kahit cash on hand, papatusin nila, or minsan kahit unsafe work or something is papatusin nila, no? Kaya naghihipit na rin sa financial criteria because of that, no. Marami nakarating sa immigration na nagva-violate ng work rights. And I would think marami ring or maybe there's several students na umuwi sa Pilipinas dahil hindi na nakayanan yung expenses dito. And immigration, kinocompile lang lahat nila yung evidences na yun, no, or yung current trends. The other thing na isang major change din is pinapa-certify na yung qualifications sa school. So it's the first time na nangyari to. I always tell my clients, even from the start, na immigration doesn't require authenticated documents. They just want a good quality scan of original documents. So dapat, ang documents mo, i-scan mo yung original mismo. Hindi pwede yung print out ang i-scan mo. Kailangan yung original document. Kailangan magandang quality ang scan. Kasi ang ginagawa ng immigration, they just zoom in or check any tampering sa document. So any tampering sa document, doon sila magre-request ng authenticated copies. Pero instead of asking a few about authenticated copies, ginawang blanket yata na ang dami ng hinahanapan ng CAV na kailangan certified in certain way na acceptable sa immigration. So that's a response from immigration, most likely because of rampant na providing na fraudulent documents. And I've also experienced in the past na may lumapit sa aking applicant, na-refuse siya ng visa in the past and nag-provide siya ng fraudulent papers. And when I looked at his refusal letter, ang sinabi lang sa refusal letter is immigration is concerned about yung genuineness na student ka lang sa Australia and temporary ka lang mag-stay sa Australia, na hindi ka babalik sa Philippines or aalis ng Australia kapag natapos mo yung course mo. So, sinabi ko sa kanya noon is, you're lucky, hindi PIC 4020 yung binigay sa'yo. Now, PIC 4020 is something na binibigay sa mga applicants na nag-provide ng peking papeles or nag-provide ng misleading information. So, bukod sa refusal, meron ka pang exclusion period. Ibig sabihin, blacklisted, yung mga term natin sa mga Pinas. So, sasabihin nila, pwede kang blacklisted depende sa severity ng fraudulent papers. Pero as a standard, normally 3 years siya. Pero kapag nagkaroon ka ng PIC 4020 na issue, at na blacklist ka for 3 years, sasabihin ng immigration, after 3 years, pwede ka mag-apply ng visa again. Pero that doesn't mean na ma-approve siya. Dahil nasa record na siya na nandaya ka before. So the next time na legally allowed ka na mag-apply ng visa, they will heavily scrutinize it. And believe me, they will, find reasons every single time to refuse the application. And kung ang plano mo pa rin is mag-apply ng student, ngayon, ang student is one of the visa applications na mahirap maaprobahan because hindi siya black and white. No. Hindi siya katulad ng skilled migrant na may pasa mo to, may pasa mo to, may pasa mo to, take mo to, take mo yan, okay, granted ang visa mo. It's either black and white, either you pass or you fail. Pagdating sa student visa, you have to convince the case officer, yung tawag ito, pagiging genuine na student mo. Pag hindi mo na-convince si case officer, pwede mo sabihin may 10 million ka sa bangko, may business kayo ng family mo, may iwan yung misis at mga anak mo sa Philippines, stuff like that. Pero kung hindi mo pa rin makonvince yung case officer mo, sasabihin niya pa rin, ito yung favorite line ng mga case officer. I acknowledge that you have this, you have that. However, I put little weight on it. Ibig sabihin, okay, naniniwala ako sa'yo, meron kang 10 million, meron kang business, meron kang pamilya na may iwan sa Pilipinas, pero hindi pa rin siya sapat para makumbinsi ako. And because of the opinion ng case officer, that makes the application really hard, Kasi hindi siya black and white, na pwedeng, pag na-provide mo to, dapat approve na. Hindi. Kailangan makumbinsi mo siya. Every person is different, Every people is unique, So, although may guidelines sila and everything, pero a lot of those powers still comes from the case officer na you have to convince them. Right now, yung convincing part na yon is not in the favor of our community. Dahil nga dun sa mga rampant na, people providing fraudulent papers, people asking, GTE writers to write their statements, and people who arrive in Australia na priority lang talaga nila is mag-work, not really to study. So, because of those past na events, it's affecting yung mga future prospects na nag-apply. So, kaya like sinasabi sa mga ating mga kababayan, kung qualified ka mag-apply ng visa, it's when is the best time to apply? The best time to apply is as soon as you become eligible. Don't put it na after 2 years, after 3 years, ipon pa ako ng pera or stuff like that, because every single year, every period that comes along, lalo humihigpit ang immigration. Lalo siyang nagiging stringent, lalo siya nagiging more expensive. Bakit siya lalo humihirap? Kasi nga, every time na mag-engage yung immigration ng bagong rule, mga kababayan natin na or other communities, nakagawa ng loophole. Gumagawa lagi ng loophole, na stuff like that, Kaya, yun, nagka-catch up ang immigration, ina-apply sa future applicants. And one of the other issues na naririnig ko rin sa social media, nababasa ko, is sabi nila, nagipit na rin, tumaas na yung show money. Ngayon, yung part na yon, it's not really reflective of the, you know, no, yung mga fraudulent things that's been happening in the past. It's just immigration updating lang yung yung amount para sa living expenses. Kasi nga naman, I mean, tumataas yung expenses sa Australia.
Inflation.
That's right. Anywhere in the world naman tumataas, pero hindi na-update yung batas to reflect those increase. So kaya lang hindi lang siya na update yearly. I think 2019, 2018 pa yung last na update niya. And some people, biglang nagulat na, ba't biglang tumaas yung required living expenses. Kasi napasabay lang siya doon sa, yung sa authentication ng documents. Which is because madami nga nagpa-provide ng fraudulent papers. Pero yung amount sa living expenses, that's a legislative requirement. No? So hindi siya naisipan lang ng case officer, no? Na para sa'yo, gusto ko $10,000 provide mo show money. Hindi gano'n, no? Or para sa kanya, gusto ko mag-provide ka ng $35,000 na financial capacity. Hindi gano'n, no? Nasa batas yun kung magkano yung kailangang hanapin na financial evidence sa inyo. So, and in-update lang yung living expenses to reflect yung current na situation. Pero everything else stays the same. Actually, common misconception din, lagi sinasabi ng ina-advertise by other people, aral kayo sa amin, ako mag-handle ng visa application mo, no show money, no financial evidence, no English test. That's actually misleading, no? That's not the case. What's actually happening is, by law, required ang financial evidence, nasa batas yun, requirement siya para ma-approve ang student visa. Same thing din sa English requirement, no? Kailangan yon para ma-approve yung visa. Pero, by policy ng immigration, wini-waive nila yung criteria na yon. Kumbaga sabi ng immigration, nasa batas to, pero dahil kami naman ang magdedesisyon, okay, we'll look the other way. Hindi mo na kailangan i-provide yan, ito lang i-provide mo, aprobahan na namin yung application mo. This is how immigration is supposed to be, handle yung load case sa student visas, because yung mga low risk na applications, sometimes they get auto grant, no? As soon as they launch the application gets approved. Some of those na medium risk, merong evidence na kailangan provide, the requirements hindi na kailangan, like yung show money or financial evidence at saka yung English test. Ngayon, sa mga high risk applications, doon na siya nagiging mandatory. Right now, yung Philippines is still classified under this medium na category, na supposed to be hindi mandatory yung show money and yung financial evidence saka yung English test by law and policy. Pero ang dami na ngayong nagre-request na case officers sa mga Filipino applicants. So bakit ganon? It's probably because na yung policy na level 2 yung Philippines, ang tinitingnan lang doon is yung mga refusal rate in the past. Hindi reflective doon yung mga Pilipino na nandito na sa Australia and everything, na they see information na struggling financially or stuff, or they found out na it's been happening na marami nang daya ng papers, and dahil approved na yung visa or something, or they don't have capability or capacity to execute na mag-cancel ng visa sa lahat ng every single person na gano'n. The immigration just chose na, okay, let those people slide, pero the next set of people that comes in, we're gonna be more strict about them. So, ganun yung nangyari, no? And reminder ko rin, no, na, I mean, marami tayong kababayan na nagyayabang pa sa Facebook na, you know, no, nakalusot ako, nakaganyan ako, ginawa ko to, ginanan. Not thinking na student visa applications pa lang kayo ngayon, no? And they feel, akala nila tapos na yung journey nila.
Correct.
There's still heaps of visa applications coming in the future. And if immigration finds out na nag-post ka na sinabi mo you know, fake your papers or you used a GTE writer to do your application, wala kang ginawa, yayabangan mo pa na, uy, wala kang ginawa, 3 weeks lang, 4 weeks lang, approve na yung visa ko. Nagpasa lang ako ng papeles. Agency ko na gumawa lahat. Now, the next time you apply for a visa, I mean, that's gonna be heavily scrutinized. And that's the time na they can even bring up na sabihin nila, oh, we received information, adverse information about you. Can you please comment? So you'll still be given you know, no, sort of you know, no, chance to, you know, no, defend yourself. Nakaka-asaw lang doon, pag nagsabi yung immigration ng ganyan, hindi nila sinasabi yung details. Parang sasabihin na sa'yo, Miko, may nalaman ako tungkol sa'yo. Pwede mo ba ipaliwanag yung nalaman ko? Pero hindi sasabihin ko na yung nalaman mo, no? Hindi sasabihin ko na yung nalaman ng immigration. So, we're gonna start panicking and, you know, no, yeah, trying to figure out na alin kaya doon yung nalaman ng immigration. So, and if hindi ka compliant sa mula nang nag-apply ka ng visa and habang nasa Australia ka, I mean, it's gonna be really hard for you to figure out kung ano yung alam ng immigration, no? If you don't come clean, that's gonna be more troublesome for you. Pero if you come clean, I mean, there's no guarantee that they will forgive you. No, you will still be, you know, either ma-refuse, ma-cancel or whatever. Pero it doesn't guarantee na, you know, if you come clean, patatawarin ka. Okay, no harm done, parang gano'n, no. That's not how mostly it works, no. So, yun, no, yun yung nangyayari sa ano, no, sa mga student visa ngayon. So, talagang ang reminder ko lang sa mga mag-a-apply ng student visa is, you know, no, 80% you have to do your part, no. That will come from you. Hindi pwedeng ibang tao magra-write ng GTE, hindi pwedeng ibang tao mag-research on your behalf, hindi pwedeng ibang tao pipiliin ng course sa'yo, magde-decide ng course sa'yo, ng school and everything. Sa side namin, we just provide recommendations, no. We will, you know, like on my practice, on my business, we provide guidelines, we provide, you know, a format where the student can follow. Magbibigay kami ng mga topics, o pwede mo i-consider to, pwede mo i-consider yan. Just choose whatever is applicable to your case. And I also interview yung ano, no, mga clients na, you know, start to find out kung ano yung background nila. Kasi para ma-custom tailored yung GTE statement nila. And on our part, we just review the GTE statement, no. We provide guidelines and everything, and then we review it before we submit it. And you know, no, at the end of the day, as migration agent, I can only advise clients. Hindi ako yung decision maker. So whether I'm happy or I'm not happy with the GTE statement, I always tell the client, you need to update this, you need to update that, or, you know, I'm still not happy with how you wrote this. You need more time to research more on this aspect and try to elaborate it. And sometimes yung mga students napo-frustrate. Sabi nila, you know, yung kaibigan ko, agent niya yung gumawa. Yung kaibigan ko, sila na yung gumawa, yung company na yung gumawa. Bakit hindi nyo gawin? So, ang nangyayari, nagiging norm na yung mga maling bagay because nagiging rampant na siya. Na yung tama dapat is parang nagiging mali sa mga kababayan natin only because akala nila allowed yon dahil it's becoming too rampant, no? And like I mentioned earlier, I mean, they're even boasting sa social media na, no, they were able to do this, they were able to do that. So, ang epekto tuloy, I mean, naghihipit tuloy sa mga subsequent na applications. And there's also a talk na hindi nangyari, no? I think mangyayari probably soon, is they're saying they're going to scrap the GTE statement. They're gonna scrap it. What I've read, no, and been, informed is they're gonna replace it na parang, examination something, or interview, no, or can be both, no, interview and examination. Ngayon, sa dami ng student visa applications, I don't know how they're gonna make that feasible, no, yung interview component. Pero yung interview na yun, I mean, so either mga random questions about qualifications and everything, just to see whether you're a genuine student or not. So whether that will happen or not, we don't know, no? Kasi to be honest, I even don't know kung paano nila i-implement yon na every single applicant will be interviewed or something.
So, ilang beses mo nang binanggit yung GTE statement. So, sa mga nanonood at nakikinig din sa podcast, ano ba yun? So,
GTE statement stands for Genuine Temporary Entrant. So, basically, because student visa is meant to be a temporary visa, at ang premise is mag-aaral ka and babalik ka sa kung saan man, no? Kung you wanna go back to your home country or you wanna go to a third country to work there or live there, no? So GTE, Genuine Temporary Entrant, purpose noon is to check ma-check ng case officers kung nagmamatch ba lahat ng circumstances mo, ng background mo sa gusto mong aralin sa Australia. So, lahat tinitingnan, no? Lahat ng aspect. So, lagi sinasabi sa mga kliyente ko, sa GTE statement, we have to convince the case officer, ng two things, no? Una, we have to convince yung case officer through sa statement mo na totoong estudyante ka. Although may trabaho na rights yung student visa, magtatrabaho sa Australia, maggagala ka sa Australia, magiging sa Instagram ka, magiging streamer, or nauuso na ngayon mga creators, something tawag, ang dami ng mga student visa na gano'n. That's fine, sa immigration walang problema doon. That's provided. Pero dapat convince mo kami na ang priority mo is to study. To study. Pangalawa, kung na-convince mo na okay, genuine na student ka, ano yung probability mag-sway ka doon sa visa conditions mo, no? Magiging compliant ka ba throughout your stay in Australia? Or matetempt ka na mag-overwork, mag-TNT, or maging character issue, yung mga ganong bagay. Yun yung pangalawang aspect na kailangan natin patunayan sa statement mo, sa GTE statement. So, pag nagawa mo yung dalawang bagay na yun, pag nasagot mo yung dalawang questions na yun, malaki yung chance na mako-convince natin si case officer, no? So, and like all people, no, kailangan natin i-back up siya ng supporting evidence, no? Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin sa kasama mo kanino man na, uy, pautang ako 1 million, next month babayaran kita 2 million. And then just by that, no, walang maniniwala sa iyo, no. Pero kung i-detalye mo yun, no, i-detail mo, breakdown mo something, you might be able to convince some people, posible pala siya or something, no? Kasi binreakdown mo siya. Same thing with case officers, no? Hindi enough na sabihin mo si case officer na, ang tatay ko nasa Dubai, susunod ako sa Dubai pagkatapos ko ng course, o yung tatay ko nagtatrabaho sa cruise ship, ipapasok niya ako sa trabaho pagkatapos ko yung cookery course, yung mga ganyan bagay. Pero kung wala kang pinrovide na papers doon, sinabi mo lang siya. So, pwedeng maniwala o hindi maniwala si case officer. Pero si case officer, hindi niya sasabihin hindi siya naniniwala. Lagi lang niya sasabihin, I put little weight. No? I acknowledge na totoo yan, na hindi ka nagsisinungaling, not to offend you, pero I put little weight. So, ibig sabihin, hindi mo siya na-convince. No? And you need to put yourself on the side of the decision maker and see yourself na kapag ba sinabi ko to, that should be enough na to convince the case officer. So yun, that very important ang GT statement. I normally tell to my clients na yun yung pinaka wild card natin, no? Kasi yun yung magdo-door dahil sa application natin. You can have $10 million sa financial evidence mo, pero kung mahina yung GTE mo, they might still refuse your application, no? So yeah, no, yun yung sa GTE pinakamahalaga, no? Yan, posible ma-scrap, pero possibility na ma-scrap siya, I think at this stage is unlikely, no? Kasi I don't really know paano nila, ano yung i-replace nilang doon, no? Measure. Yeah, measure. Yeah.
Anyways, salamat dyan sa pag-explain na yan. So nililinaw natin sa programa natin sa Explain Why podcast, we just do explanation. Hindi ako against the student visa or anything. We just want to tell you sa mga audience natin, sa mga listener as well, na ganito yung mga nangyayari. That's why we have an immigration expert na si Herbert Legaspi ng HL Migration to explain to us kung ano talaga yung mga nangyayari, ano yung ginagawa ng government. So in the lighter note, so sa last question ko before we wrap up natin yung ating programa, Herbert, ano naman itong pumunta si Prime Minister Albanese sa Pilipinas? It's regarding sa Memorandum of Understanding about yung establishment ng work holiday visa application sa mga Pilipino to go sa Australia. Anong maganda ba ito sa ating mga kababayan? Anong epekto nito? Pag inopen to, I think it's gonna be opening ata in 2024 next year for work holiday visa.
That's right. So yung work holiday visa is an arrangement between both countries na ang premise is magluluwag si Australia. Ngayon, yung partner country, magluluwag ka rin para sa Australians. No? It's side by side, no. So most of the time, kung sino anumang numbers yung i-allow ng Australia na makapasok dito, yun din yung equivalent numbers ng mga Australians that can go to that particular country na maluwag, no, na easily. And yung news nga na yun, it's music to everyone, no, to hear that news, because mas madali siya, no? You just need to be young, you need to be college level or something, to qualify for that particular visa. Ngayon, tinaon din siya ng time na pumunta nga yung Prime Minister ng Australia sa Pilipinas. Opinion ko doon is it's more so on politics, no? Not really to benefit the people, but to benefit the politicians. Kasi most of these things, kasi maraming situations na ganito na nangyari na in the past, no? Na parang it creates so much noise, pero once they put it down to the law, kung maging batas man siya, no? Ang daming ifs, ang daming conditions. So magandang pakinggan ng una, ano ba, similar with working holiday visas. Pero yung number na sinabi ng immigration na i-allow nila for for working holiday visas for Filipinos ay 200 lang per year. So, like I mentioned earlier, it's supposed to be mutual, no? So, ibig sabihin, Australia, mag-allow kami ng 200 working holidays na Filipinos, and then ang Pilipinas, most likely, ang rule din nila doon is 200 din na Australians ang pwedeng pumasok sa Pilipinas at magtrabaho. And I mean, I've been going back sa country natin every year, no, several times a year. And yeah, I'm seeing na, marami ng expat, maraming Australian industries are setting up businesses in the Philippines. So ano tong mga businesses na to? Those are accounting firms, engineering firms, IT firms, or yung mga other support groups, no, yung mga BPO industries, sineset up ng mga Australians yan. At karamihan sa kanila, yung mga top position or other senior or junior roles nila doon na team head or something are Australians. So, kaya naisipan malamang ni Albanese na mag-offer ng working holiday sa Philippines because marami ng Australians ang napunta doon. Pero hindi pa ganun karami ang volume. So, depende na sa Philippine side natin if we can negotiate a bigger volume because 200 per year is roughly about 16, 17 person per month lang ang pwedeng i-grant na working holiday sa mga Pilipino kada buwan. So sa 17 na yon, 16 na visa grant per month, I mean, I'm expecting na baka thousands yung mag-a-apply pero only 16 per month ang mag-a-grant. So hindi siya ganun kadami. And dahil konti lang yung slots, most likely sa exceptional few na maganda talaga yung accolades na na staff, doon lang siya most likely mabibigay, no. Hindi dun sa mga other applicants. And the frustrating part of it is working holiday visa is not an invitation type of a visa. Meaning, hindi siya katulad ng skilled migrant na before you pay immigration with your fees, you need to be invited to apply for a visa. So, sa working holiday visa, babayaran mo na yung government at maglalodge ka ng application. Pero, I mean, that application can be forever na naghihintay ka, wala pa ring outcome or something. Kasi you may fit doon sa criteria ng immigration para mag-grant ang visa, pero ayaw niya i-grant sa'yo. Kasi nga, limited lang yung slots. They're waiting for certain applicants na mag-meet doon sa gusto nilang industry na pumasok. For example, kailangan nila ng maraming nurse for this particular time. I mean, I would think na yung working holiday visa would be given to those specific occupations. Or kailangan nila ng teacher this particular time. I mean, teachers lang muna i-accept namin, mamimili kami ng mga sa pool na yon na pasok dun sa background na yun. That's how I think how it will pan out. So, hindi siya madaling visa application and I wouldn't really rely doon sa visa category na yun, na yun yung itatarget ng mga kababayan natin.
Thank you so much for that, Herbert. So sana sa ating mga listeners, mga audience na ngayon ay marami kayong natutunan. So it's almost an hour yung pinag-uusapan natin about Australian immigration. So hopefully meron kayong mapulot sa mga pinag-uusapan namin at itatak sa inyong isip pa kung mag-student. Wala kaming against sa student visa. So but we need to learn, research bago mo applyan ito. So sa ating mga kababayan, Herbert, in case na kailangan nilang kontakin ka for any advice, paano paano ka nila mako-contact?
Yeah, sure. No. Yeah, salamat na Miko. I have an office here in Adelaide na sa Manapara, just 40 kilometers north of Adelaide. And we also have an office sa Ortigas Center. We're located sa Philippines on West Podium Tower, 26th floor. So it's a short walk behind SM Mega Mall lang. Very convenient. And merong mall sa baba, no, yung Podium Mall. So yeah, it's very very nice place to to go to. And if you need assistance, you can book an appointment or inform us that you want to have a visit para may schedule ng tama and we make sure na we can allocate time to meet you. Dito sa Australia, you can also contact me through my email and my Facebook page. So ang email address ko is visa@hlmigration.com.au. At sa Facebook naman, ang Facebook page ko is facebook.com/hlmigration. So, you can send us a message through Facebook or you can flick us an email. For inquiries on for skilled visa or student visa, you can just mention that on your email and kindly include lang yung resume nyo and your passport. No? So resume just to ma-identify ko yung background mo and to provide some initial assessment kung anong suitable na visa sa'yo before we go to a more in-depth communication. Passport, I normally require passport. It's just to make sure na I'm dealing with the actual person, no? Para iwas scam din tayo, no? Kasi minsan alam niyo na a lot of unsolicited sort of calls or emails that I've been receiving so often. So I want to make sure na I'm really talking to the real person.
Thank you so much, Herbert. So sa lahat ng mga ilalagay natin lahat ng mga links sa show notes ng podcast at also sa video as well. Sa description nalagay natin yan so that you can contact Herbert Legaspi sa HL Migration. Ano yung parting words mo sa ating mga kababayan na gustong pumunta sa Australia?
Right. Okay. No, salamat, amigo. Yeah. Parting words is, do proper research. Ask to the right persons. No. Make sure na you approach yung correct people and staff. Like registered migration agents, and do ample research. If you're not, satisfied from what you heard from one migration agent, it's fine to ask a second opinion. No, same thing with doctors. And yeah, before immigration sa Australia is really really expensive. So much time, so much effort, so much money. Na investment ito, and it's for your family and yourself na future nyo. So yeah, take appropriate time to do those things. No, research, ask the right persons before jumping to decisions and everything. No, para you get the best informed just na tawag ito consultations and everything para to guide you na tama talaga yung ginagawa nyo moving forward.
Thank you so much, Herbert, for that word. So sa mga maraming salamat, Herbert. Okay, so ayan, isa na naman pong episode natin ng Explain Why. Sana'y natutunan ninyo yung explanation namin about sa education visa, sa student visa na pinilawag ni Herbert, at also yung tama, mag-research ka, ito ba yung tamang visa for you? Or sa Australia naman, maraming mga Filipino community na pwedeng tumulong sa inyo if you need help. Pero before you do it, so kailangan mag-research muna kayo. So maraming salamat sa panonood at sa pakikinig ng Explain Why. See you again next week. So Friday today, Friday the 13th. So happy weekend and see you next week sa isa na namang magandang topic na ating pagtutuunan. Salamat sa inyong lahat.